help increase global solar demand by 40%. And here in the U.S., homes to have solar. The whole world is going solar, and without silver, there would be no solar. That's why some experts are saying,
I believe silver is on its way to $100 an ounce.
if you would like to learn more, call Your Capital for this free report, Silver Solar Surge. See why rising demand for solar energy around the world could drive silver prices to $100 an ounce. Call today, get the report, and ask how you can get up to $5,000 in silver with a qualified purchase. Call 800-960-3100. 800-960-3100. 800-960-3100.
President Biden getting the job done? Micro breaks down the future of American workers on Waters. And Lara Trump and Kevin McCarthy have can't miss insight on justice.
Right.
You want President's deals? How about saving $18,000 off sticker on new 2020 Volt EV Premier at Matus Chevy? $18,000 off MSRP on a new Volt EV exclusively at Matus Chevy in the Elk Grove Auto Mall. Now that's a good deal.
When you say what you're in the mood for, the Xfinity voice remote will find exactly that. You can even say a famous movie quote, and it will know the right movie. Circle of trust, Greg.
Relax the needle, Joe.
You can learn something new anytime.
Education.
And if you're not sure what you're looking for, say,
Well, it's frustration.
just ask, what can I do to find more of what you love with the Xfinity voice remote?
I guess you reached the dream.
President's Day. Leave the new 2020 Volt EV Premier at Matus Chevy. Only $99.
I guess you reached the dream.
$99 a month for a new Volt exclusively at Matus Chevy in the Elk Grove Auto Mall. Now that's a great deal.
Well, it's a beautiful snowy winter Saturday right now. But you know, the city says it's shutting down the two ice skating rinks there in the middle of the winter. That's because they're operated by the Trump Organization. One of the rinks being closed is the iconic Woman Rink. You see it there, which has that beautiful view of Midtown Manhattan, just above 59th Street. The city says it does not want to support the former president's company because of the January 6th Capitol Hill riot. We will have much more about this story about 2 hours from now at 4 p.m. Eastern. We will speak with Malik Gorgon. He's the program director of ice hockey in Harlem. We go up skating at the rink and get his reaction to the closing of the Woman Rink because of its connection
What is this, dude? This is
to
all
Donald Trump.
frustration?
Arthur?
Schools across the nation beginning to reopen with coronavirus safety measures in place. According to Burbio's school tracking data, nearly 42% of children K through 12 are now back in the classroom 5 days a week. That's an increase of more than 6% from January 19th, one day before President Biden took office. Dr. Nicole Saphier joins us now. She's a Fox News medical contributor and author of the book, Make America Healthy Again. So, Dr. Nicole, Dr. Saphier, your take, first of all, on schools reopening before all teachers have been vaccinated.
Well, this is a very important conversation, Arthel, and we have been talking about it for months now. People, when they talk about school reopenings and the science behind it, they really have a very narrow view of what science is. It has become clear that school reopenings really do not have an impact on community spread. The CDC even recently said that schools need to be reopened, and it should not be contingent upon teachers being vaccinated. Arthel, as you know, every frontline worker for the last year have continued to work without a vaccine being available. Teachers themselves should be able to do that as well. The CDC looked at over 90,000 students across the United States. There were only 32 cases of in-school transmission of the virus. And Arthel, there were 0 cases of children giving the virus to a teacher. So with appropriate mitigation methods, physical distancing, mask wearing, it is extremely safe for our children and their staff, the teachers and the school staff, to get back to school. It should not be held up waiting for people to be vaccinated, because the detriments of having children out of school for any longer it's devastating to what's happening to our younger generation.
Should teachers get vaccine priority?
I don't feel like doing this right now.
I think everybody who wants a vaccine should be able to go and get a vaccine. I think that there are many ways to increase availability of vaccines, whether it's delaying that second dose, We have Johnson & Johnson, who's submitting to the FDA this week, and hopefully that single-dose vaccine will be available in a couple of weeks after that. I think that anyone who's
So
going
you're saying
to
there's no
work,
chance?
anyone with chronic illness, healthcare workers should all
One
be
out of a million.
priority.
One
But
out
I
of a
don't like
million.
saying priority because truly, Arthel, anybody who wants a vaccine, I believe, should have access to it as long as the supply is there.
Okay, and I want to get back to that, but I do have one other question I wanted to ask you about schools, Dr. Sapphire. You know, what about the schools that don't have budgets or funding for COVID improvements, like upgraded ventilation systems and space to properly physical distance? Are those environments safe?
Well, that's a great question, Arthel, and not all schools are created equally, and unfortunately, this has really made a divide across our country because you have the schools with more money. The private schools have been open since September, where you have the schools with less funding have been closed, and those children are suffering because of that. So, again, it doesn't have to be high-quality, expensive ventilation systems. We have to really make sure that we're not locking ourselves into a tight box. Physical distancing and mask wearing can be safe. But the physical distancing, especially in the Northeast and places where it's very cold outside, is going to be difficult. But anywhere that the weather is able to house people outside, I think they need to be moving classrooms outside if they don't have distance. We have to be creative as to what can we do. If they're in the Northeast, if they're in a place where you can't move outside, then they need to at least be in a hybrid environment where half the school goes maybe one day, the other half the other day, but they have to get to school. It is keeping them out of school. Distance learning is not acceptable anymore. We're coming up on a year now. We have to get our children in school.
And, you know, some 6 million vaccines, they were unable to be distributed due to the winter storm in Texas. What's your forecast for vaccine rollout? And, you know, how many Americans will have been vaccinated and by when?
Well, Arthel, over 59 million doses of the vaccine have been given thus far. Couple that with the natural immunity that we have had over the last year, we're inching ourselves closer and closer to that magical herd immunity every single day. Now, the Biden administration made a very smart move recently, knowing that there was the weather in Texas and the Midwest. Rather than shipping out the vaccines and risking them unfortunately having to be discarded if they weren't able to be given because of the weather, they decided to keep them and not distribute them. So they're about 3 days behind. They held up about 6 million vaccine doses. However, they've already started shipping them back out. 2 million went out yesterday, and the Biden administration is actually asking that vaccine sites stay open extra hours this upcoming week to make sure that they make up for that, and they're confident that they will.
Okay, Dr. Nicole.